Live from the Xfinity Studios at WVON. You're listening to Stats and Stilettos.
Those highlights were courtesy of Fox Sports. That was Lovie Smith and Jay Cutler talking. And the Bears losing again as they fall to 8-5, losing to the Vikings today, 21-14. Stats and Stilettos, everybody. I'm Farouk Basir.
Maya Kai.
And tonight we'll be talking really fast. We're on till 11 o'clock, and we'll be talking about the Bears, a lot of NFL stuff. We'll even try to get into some baseball winter meeting stuff with Daily Herald Cubs beat reporter Bruce Miles later on in the hour. So if you want to comment on anything that we'll be talking about here, the phone number at the station is 773-591-1690. That is 773-591-1690. You can listen online at WVON.com. Go in there, click on the iHeartRadio icon, and get some crystal clear Stats and Stilettos in your ear. You can also follow the show on Twitter at
Stats Stilettos.
You can like our Facebook fan page as well. So the Bears have pretty much done what they've been doing here, collapsing in the last few weeks of the year, and they're letting a whole lot of teams back into the playoff picture. I know we were talking a few weeks ago. I was saying that the Bears are the most complete team in the NFL when they were 7-1, and now not so much.
I never said that. I knew. See? Whenever I say things, people say I'm being a killjoy. Why can't you just enjoy the win? I'm like, because you have to realistically assess what's in front of you. Even though they looked great on paper, and they had some great additions in regards to bringing in Marshall, who has lived up to everything you expect. I have no issue with that. It was good to have Alshon Jeffrey back in the mix. Obviously a big touchdown.
Even though he dropped a touchdown.
But, he was a little rusty, so out of fairness, even Hester, didn't look that great, but they were both
dropped a touchdown too.
Right, coming back off of, being injured. So I can accept that they weren't playing their best football. But on the flip side of that, you've got players like Kellen Davis, bench him immediately. Because he is not a viable option. For him to be a big fella, and he is a big fella.
Yeah.
He has got butterfingers. He doesn't know how to get separation in the middle of the field. I mean, this is what the whole tight end position is about, giving you access to that middle yardage to help you stretch the field. He was dropping passes. Does he know how to jump? I think I can jump higher than him.
If they had a halfway decent tight end, it would make it so much easier on Brandon Marshall and Jay Cutler because they had the running game today. They got some big numbers out of Forte. They had Brandon Marshall doing what he does, but everybody is like they had everything was sucked in. It's like a vacuum toward Brandon Marshall.
And this is the issue that they have. It seems like just when you think they've figured this out, that establish the running game, and then, of course, the passing game will come. You can get into play action. But yet, just when the running game seemed like it was going good, they immediately want to shift gears very quickly and go to Marshall, which, Tom Thayer said it best in the pregame. He was like, look, you got Jeffrey back, throw him some of the balls, get the running game established, and things are going to come to Brandon Marshall because you have options, or they're not going to know where you're going to put the ball. But it becomes, they were putting like three defensemen on Brandon Marshall, but yet
at least
Cutler at times were still trying to throw him the ball. If there is three defensemen on Brandon Marshall, that tells me somebody else on the field is wide open.
Yeah. Why did the Bears throw the ball 53 times today? They weren't down 30-0. That game was relatively close. Minnesota jumped out early, but the game was still kind of there to where they didn't have to throw the ball as many times as they threw it. I mean, it was a whole lot of things. Bad play calling today. Cutler wasn't sharp at all. And then some of the people that you mentioned.
Kellen Davis.
Yeah.
It was called pass now, think later. That's what the mentality was of this entire game. And we've seen this frequently throughout the season, and it's an issue. Not to poke at the Vikings. I think you should take every opponent seriously. I don't want anybody to say they played down because today the Vikings played up. AP does what he does every single game. So you had to anticipate that you probably weren't going to stop him from running. Amazing game, though. I mean, the way that he runs, I'm like.
But they slowed him down after that first run, really, in pretty much the first quarter.
But you do realize, though, he scored 2 touchdowns first quarter before half the quarter had even elapsed. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's insane. The Bears, once again, though, when it comes to good runners, it was the same thing with Arian Foster. They're just not good about stopping the run. And it's not okay to say because Urlacher isn't in the mix, they couldn't make adjustments because, remember, Nick Roach, he's the natural. The natural what? The natural miss my blocks and not feeling like I'm supposed to. This is a big moment for him. And not to be mean about it, it's like, was he there? I heard his name one time in the game. I think he got close to a sack. That was the only time they mentioned Nick Roach, who was filling in for the legendary Brian Urlacher. I'm just like, this is not acceptable. That if you struggle against the Vikings okay, I'm not trying to be funny. Even if Detroit loses this game against Green Bay, they're going to want to be a spoiler for the Bears. And here's the problem. They have the ability to be a spoiler for the Bears.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about this before we went on the air. There are no guaranteed wins anymore for this team. That Arizona game isn't guaranteed. As horrible as Arizona is, and right now they're probably, if not the worst, the second worst team in the NFL. But that's not a game that you can say, oh, the Bears are going to go down there and win that game. That's a road game for these Bears.
And the problem,
with this head coach.
Right. And the problem is really about, with this being another division loss, Green Bay is actually, when they were tied at 8-4, the reason that Green Bay was number one in the division, because they have a better division record. Mm-hmm. So because of that, this second loss really keeps them in the wild card bin, unless, let's say the season ends and the Green Bay and the Bears have the same record. If Green Bay wins tonight, pretty much they're going to go up and end up winning the division, which means the Bears will truly be a wild card team. And it didn't have to be this way. I mean, the Vikings, to me, you didn't see enough pressure on Christian Ponder, who has not played well.
He didn't play well today.
That's what I'm saying, though. But yet, you didn't see anything. But I'm going to tell you what ended up being probably a bigger issue than anybody realized. Robbie Gould's unexpected injury is a big deal to the Bears, because he's usually good for 6 to 9 points a game. Those field goals they wouldn't take because he couldn't kick, they would have gone for those in many situations. They lost out on a good 6 to 9 points because Robbie Gould couldn't kick beyond 25 yards.
I think they really only lost one field goal, because they had a situation where they were at the 34. I think they didn't get a first down. I think that was the only one. But most of their drives, they didn't get into a field goal range where they couldn't kick the field goal and make the field goal attempt because of Gould's injury. But
at the same time, they may not have even attempted that because they knew it wasn't even an option. That's the sad part. They know he was not an option that could come on the field if they could get in field goal range to even make it happen. And I hate to think that they would be so petty and so unprofessional and not play to whatever opportunities that they have. Mm-hmm. But trust me, I think if Robbie Gould is available, this might have been a different game. They might have won just surely off of field goals. I mean, that's 6 to 9 points that they missed, I guarantee you. So my question is, if they fail to make the playoffs or barely squeak in, finally people are getting on the same page with me about Lovie Smith. Finally, after 2 years of preaching about this, people finally are like, well, maybe. When is it time to say, when is the shelf life of an NFL coach expired? When do you turn that can good and say, oops, it looks like we got to toss you? Because we clearly can't donate you to charity or, to somebody else, to a food pantry. So it's time to let you go.
It's about that time. Malcolm Rocco, our tech producer, we were talking before the show that he has that look in his face like he's just worn down. Like he had even a little gray stubble beard kind of coming in a little bit. Like,
well, this gets back to not being fully equipped with the tools that you need to maybe be in the position that you're in.
You calling Lovie a dummy too? Just like you called Devin Hester a dummy?
No, I didn't call Devin Hester a dummy. I'm just saying it might be easier to be just a defensive coordinator, because the level of responsibility is just that. The scope of your job responsibilities only are that. And that's obviously what he excelled at and what made him attractive to the Bears, who were, kind of touted to be more of a defensive team. Now that he's got all these other duties on his plate, we all know that he's really poor at clock management and all these other things. And you can blame Tyson, say it's his fault for play calling, but that's when the head coach walks over and says, tap, tap, excuse me, this isn't working. We need to do something different. But here's the problem. He doesn't know what to do different.
Rico, what's going on, man?
Rico!
Oh.
Hey, well, let me tell you this, guys. I've been saying that Lovie Smith should go years ago. He's not a good head coach. He's a coordinator. He's a defensive coordinator.
That's what I'm talking about. Somebody has vision. Thank you, Rico, because I've been saying that from day one. From day one.
Let me say this. That Green Bay beat Green Bay comment, that wasn't Lovie Smith. You better believe that was told to him to say.
See, that's what I think.
I'm not gonna buy into that, because I'm gonna tell you. Because when I look at I'm not gonna buy into it. I'm gonna tell you why. Because when I look at lower level species like him, when it comes to excellence and intelligence, that's something he would identify with, because he thinks that's important to Bear fans. Now,
it is, though.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why I know he said it. If you would have had Brian Billick as the head coach of the Bears, that's not what he would have said. He would have talked about excellence and winning a Super Bowl. So
he would have said it if Mike McCaskey told him to say it.
Yeah, but they probably respect Brian Billick a little bit more and would allow him to say what he needed to say.
That was an organization statement.
I don't buy that. Prove it. How do you know it? How do you know? Prove it.
No, you can just tell. That's
that's not good enough. That's like saying I can just tell you cheating.
Prove it. if you look at some of the main rivalries that goes on in sports, the main priority for those coaches is to beat their main rival.
Okay.
Of course, it's a given that you're going to beat the other teams, and you want to beat the other teams, and your ultimate goal is to make it to the Super Bowl. But that statement was given to him. That was directive given to him.
No, I don't buy it.
That was written.
I don't buy it.
100%.
That was written. Hey, let me tell you this. That was written for him by the Bears PR department.
Yep.
Now, let's. I'm gonna leave that alone. So let's get to this other piece.
Get to that piece. Go ahead, Rico.
All right. This is the deal. All right. The Bears and Lovie Smith, and Lovie in particular, they never should have let Mike Martz go as an offensive coordinator.
Oh, no, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one.
All right. Listen to me, and then you can go ahead and make your comment. When Jay Cutler and Mike Martz fell out last year, it was because Jay Cutler felt like he was getting beat up by doing a 7-step drop. Mike Martz offenses have always been throw deep down the field, 7-step drop.
Yes.
No protection in the backfield. Jay Cutler was getting beat up. During the 5-game stretch when Jay Cutler went off on Mike Martz, and Mike Martz decided to draw up some 3-step and 5-step drop plays for Jay Cutler last year, the Bears had the highest scoring offense for 5 games. And then Jay Cutler got hurt.
This is
for
true.
5 games in a row, the Bears had the highest.
They averaged 32 points a game during that stretch.
Yep. They had the highest scoring offense in the league last year. Jay Cutler got hurt. And then, of course, you guys know the rest is history. Lovie Smith, his ego doesn't allow him to have a coordinator who's more successful than him. He got rid of Ron Rivera.
I agree with that. I do agree with that.
Well, Rico, where's your church, man? I'm coming to throw some money on the pulpit, brother.
There you go. It's the sweet, holy.
So Bears, big game next week against the Packers. They look like they're
beat down Central.
Complete free fall.
Is that here or is that in Green Bay?
That's here.
Watch it. I don't know.
All right, well, let's do some NFL news. Yeah. All right, around the league, we got our man D. Introduce yourself.
What's going on, everybody? I am Damon Spruiel, your moderator for Around the League. You can follow me on Twitter at Demons1. That's DEMONZE, the number 1.
Number 1.
As Maya said, the Bears led a lot of teams back in the hunt. And here's one right here, Dallas. Who would have thought this? 7-6 right now. Dallas won today, 20-19 over Cincinnati. Tony Romo, 25 for 43, 268 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. DeMarco Murray had 53 yards with 1 touchdown. Then you had the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, 20 for 33, 206 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And Andrew Hawkins for the Bengals, 44 yards and 1 touchdown. So a lot of people thought the Cowboys was dead. Them boys was gone, but them boys are back. 7-6, Mike.
You know, they might have had a little motivation because they were very emotional in regards to what happened with some of their teammates. We'll talk about that if we have time later down the road. So I think it was the same thing last week with the Chiefs, that extra motivation, trying to be focused. But once again, the Bengals have also not been the team we expected for them to be this year.
Right. The Bengals are a lot.
Well, they're 7-6 right now too.
I know, but but a little inconsistency in the play. You kind of thought that next step that Andy Dalton would be taking this season. He's struggled here and there. Yeah. So to be honest, this was one of those games to me that could have gone either way.
They're a lot like the Bears. They lose to good teams. They beat up on bums, bum slayers. So the Bengals and the Bears aren't that different.
Well, next game, another team that's back in the hunt. Can't believe I'm saying this either. The Washington Redskins. Washington Redskins beat the Baltimore Ravens 31-28. Robert Griffin III, 15 for 26. 246 yards, 1 touchdown. Alfred Morris had 122 yards and 1 touchdown. Joe Flacco, 16 for 21, 182 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And Anquan Bolden with 78 yards with 2 touchdowns. Now, Farouk, Robert RG3, just call him RG3.
Just get it out.
Just get it out. Just get it out. Bum knee, hurt himself.
Yeah,
sprained ankle.
Yeah.
It's big for him, but they back in the hunt right now. So the big question is, can he come back and kind of lead them into the playoffs because they're back in the hunt?
I think they're good enough to win a game with Drew Stanton. If they have to go the rest of the year without Griffin, then they'd be in trouble. But I think they can win one. They're rolling right now. They're the hottest team in the league.
Yeah, they're really rolling.
No, the hottest team.
Wow.
The hottest team in the league would beat them Denver Broncos, so you need to stop that. Stop it.
But, they really look good. They have when you have a good running back to go with a quarterback that plays like Griffin, that's hard to stop. That's hard to stop. If it was just RG3 back there, then they'd be a lot easier to game plan. But that running game of theirs is really the difference.
I think Shanahan a couple of weeks ago basically said like the season's over. We're just looking for people to try out.
He did.
But now look
they
at
haven't
it.
lost since.
They haven't lost since.
Yeah.
If RG3, who I now call the Pied Piper, because he's like whistling and blowing a flute and everybody's following at this point with him, which I'm fine with, because the kid has earned the right to do what he's to get the credit. If they can get Santana Moss and Pierre Garçon on like just to really kick it up one more notch.
Garçon had a good game today.
I mean, they both had good games, but if they can just get them to kick it up just one more notch, along with that running game, I think Washington really has an opportunity because they do have good receivers. They're proven receivers. If they can just get a little bit more production out of them and keep the running game, establish it more, and not get pass happy, which can tend to happen, I think Washington really has an opportunity to make it happen.
All right, another game. This is a complete blowout, but they now have jumped the Chicago Bears as far as the seeding. Seattle 58, Arizona nothing. Seattle right now is 8-5. Russell Wilson 7 for 13, 148 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Marshawn Lynch 128 yards, 3 touchdowns. Then he had John Skelton on the other side of Arizona 11 for 22, 74 yards and 4 interceptions. And man, all I gotta say is run, Larry, run to get out of Arizona. 2 yards, targeted 11 times.
He got paid. He ain't going nowhere.
2 yards. Man, Farouk, I would think a guy who is a competitor but wanting to get out of there. But that's beside the point. Seattle, now 5th seed, hopping over the Bears because they beat the Bears last week. And they are another hot team right now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's jeez, I look at this one. Seattle is one of those teams, every year about this time of the season, this tends to happen with them.
Kick it up.
And it always seems like it's after they play the Bears. I don't know why that is. The Bears are like their good luck charm.
Yeah.
Seriously. It's like their good luck charm. Russell Wilson, who has now, after that Bears game, became another QB darling just because of
confidence.
I mean, the Bears this game, that was their first. Why do the Bears always are the first of bad stuff? Their first road win was here in Chicago.
Yep.
And now it's like that confidence building. Did you see the expose they did on him before the game? I'm not sure if you saw it or not. Just there, whenever a team feels confident, I can beat anybody, that makes them extremely dangerous because it's that intangible you can't put, your finger on to say they feel like they can be in the mix of things thanks to the Bears.
Yeah, homecoming for the Seattle Seahawks today. They had their homecoming game. I guarantee when the Bears play these Arizona Cardinals, it's not going to go this easy.
Here's the thing. You're right, because Larry Fitzgerald, Beanie Wells, just absent. I mean, the Cardinals did not have a good game. They did not to say
they
that
don't have a quarterback.
I'm not saying they're a great team.
Exactly.
But even
there,
you're right. The
exactly.
QB, and that's just the production in the running game. It's just they looked horrible.
They don't have a quarterback.
That's going to be a job. It's going to be open too. Wisenhunt, that job is going to be out there.
Yeah, the hottest. The seat is hot, and they started off 4-0. But you want to say something, Fruit?
Oh no, I was going to say Seattle. Yeah, the Bears aren't going to catch them. The Bears are going to be in a fight for that 6th seed, like we've been saying. I mean, all these scores are kind of.
And Green Bay, this win tonight, it has major implications on it.
Yeah. It definitely does. It definitely does. Next game, get the New York Giants 52, New Orleans 27. The Giants now 8-5. They seem to lock up their division. Eli Manning 22 for 35, 259 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Had David Wilson go for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had Drew Brees 26 for 43, 354 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And Darren Sproles 56 yards, 1 touchdown rushing, and another touchdown receiving. New Orleans is gone. They're done.
Right.
But the Giants have stepped up and they're now 85.
And they haven't locked up that division yet, I don't think, with the Redskins and the
That's
Cowboys.
right.
They're
76.
The door's still open.
Yeah, that's a wide open.
But this
one,
is characteristic of the Giants. They tend to get towards the end of the season and they like to walk the high wire with everybody. Eli Manning had been just atrocious in his last 3 games, hadn't even thrown for a touchdown. So they were due to come back into the mix and get back on track. This was a perfect game to do it. And let's be honest, the Saints defense leaves something to be desired.
Well, their special teams, too. Everything went wrong
So
for New Orleans today. Drew Brees had another bad game.
If you need to get in the mix, this is not a bad team, especially now that nothing is going to happen with them. It was the right thing to do. So.
Definitely. We got time for one more?
Yeah, go.
Okay, cool. How about this one? Carolina 30, Atlanta 20. Atlanta's now 11-2. Carolina's 4-9. Cam Newton 23 for 35, passing 287 yards passing. He had 119 rushing, 2 touchdowns passing and 1 touchdown rushing. He had Matthew Ryan. I'm going to keep calling you Matthew. Why are you losing? 34 for 49, 342 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And you had Roddy White, 117 yards and 1 touchdown. This one right here alone, I know Atlanta can kind of sit back and, they have the number 1 seed locked up. But Cam Newton just went crazy today. And looking at that, Farouk, you see teams, and as you always say about Atlanta, do it in the playoffs. They starting to get this blueprint on them.
Carolina was kind of hot because the last game, Matt Ryan at the end of the game was like, get that off the field. At the last game, they had their matchup in Atlanta, and they were like pissed about him
I
saying
remember
that.
hearing that.
Yeah, Matt Ryan was like, get off the field. And they were like, what? I mean, they had lost the game. They're like, what? So they had a chip on their shoulder for this matchup. And I think Cam Newton has a strong need to end his season on a high note because it's been so tumultuous for him. He's been under scrutiny. I felt he needs these last couple games to end on a high note because there's a lot of jobs. I mean, they're talking about Rivera kind of being on the hot seat. You know, they needed a big push, and they wanted this game.
Yeah, I mean, not surprising. Atlanta just isn't that good to me. I'm surprised. I was more surprised that they were 11-1 at the fact that they lost this game today. So, but I have a question for everybody. Well, I'll let you go ahead and run down the rest of the scores.
All right, well, let's go ahead. Quick rundown. Indianapolis 27, Tennessee 23. Nice comeback. He had St. Louis 15, Buffalo 12, Philadelphia 23.
St. Louis is in this thing too. They're 6-1 and 6-1.
6-1. That's true. Yeah, Philadelphia 23, Tampa Bay 21. Tampa Bay's out now. Yeah. New York Jets 17, Jacksonville 10. Yeah, San Diego 34, Pittsburgh 24, Cleveland 30, KC 7, San Francisco 27, and Miami 13. And you wrap it up with Denver last Thursday night 26, Oakland 13.
Who do you guys think is the biggest threat to the Bears besides themselves to get that sixth seed?
I think you answered
your own question. I think you answered your own question because you don't feel like there's not talent, but there's a disconnect. It's just a disconnect across the board.
This is 2 years in a row they start off hot and something happened, and now you got Jay Cutler suffering, being reported right now, a stiff neck.
Yeah.
So now he has a neck injury. I mean, it's just a snowball. As soon as you get that 7 wins, 8 wins, it just goes straight down. So I think you answered your question right there. I think it's themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump into some of the other stuff that's been cooking because the NFL not only has kept you captivated with the playoff picture, just the off the field stuff has been ridiculous. So to top the whole Javon Belcher thing, which we'll talk about briefly in a moment, Dallas goes into this game against the Bengals with a heavy heart because their defensive lineman, what's his name, Josh Brent, who, by the way, was an Illinois player, is now actually, he was in jail at the top of the hour in the NBC break. They said he was released from jail for intoxicated manslaughter because he had a passenger, Jerry Brown, who was on the practice squad for Dallas, was killed in this accident. Now, mind you, they said that Brent had a history. He had a DUI as a student athlete, so this isn't new behavior for him. So now the swirl of conversation is, oh my God, the NFL is spiraling out of control. The NFL has been out of control for a minute.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: DUIs are issues outside the NFL too, big time issues. But I think what is so disheartening about this whole situation, and I'm sure someone's going to say, Maya, you're just so mean. I'm going to be mean. One, throw the book at him and bury him under the jail because one, irresponsibility. Two, it shows you have no respect for the game that you play because why were you even drinking when you knew you had a game on Sunday? That's no respect for what you do, the craft that you have. And now you've taken another player's life because you were irresponsible to get behind the wheel. And they were saying things like on a lot of the pregame shows that, the NFL has things in place for this, that there's special car services you can call. It's on their player card. There's no reason why you have to get behind the wheel. They speculate that maybe he wouldn't want to do that because then the NFL would have known you were drinking. I guarantee they prefer for you to do this than to take a life. And what I find a little disturbing about this is, so he gets released from jail, and I told D in the break, I said, okay, my mental health radar goes off. I said, bad idea. I said, unless somebody is being really accountable for him, this can be one of those suicide issues because he realizes that, one, he took the life of a fellow teammate that he knew at Illinois, so it wasn't like this was, just someone he met at Dallas. He's a repeated offender, so in the court of public opinion, he knows they're going to throw everything at him, and they should. Life as he knows it is over. They better watch him because he'd probably be somewhere right now trying to overdose on something because his life is over, and he knows it.
Well, if he was a great player or a really good player, I think that there would be opportunity for him to get back in the league with this because that's just how the NFL works. There's a guy, Leonard Little, a few years ago, who ran over some mom or something or had a car accident, and he wound up playing back in the league again because he led the league in sacks.
But here's the thing, though.
So, it's a talent thing. Unfortunately, with something like this, I think it comes to that.
But I think, seriously, though, because of the NFL culture being on a spiral with the Lions themselves having so many issues off the field, I think Goodell really wants to put a chokehold on this. He realizes that they need to toe the line and stop this stuff from happening. So I would beg to differ that the NFL was looking to change the culture, and a lot of Michael Vick is lucky he got back into the league because that was, if it hadn't probably been for Tony Dungy being an advocate for him and facilitating that and taking Donovan McNabb's job, I'm sorry. I digress. He may not be in the league right now. So I'm just saying, this kid has made a grave mistake. He's taken somebody else's life. Now, mind you, the kid also, he was 25, cute little fella too. didn't have to get in the car with him either. I mean, it was a choice. He did know that they had been drinking, so it's unfortunate that no one, here's honestly, I know tons of people have gotten behind the wheel just a little toasty and never thought it would end up in an accident. Right. I think there's that, but drinking is an impairment. So sometimes people think they're okay to drive even when they're not okay to drive. So I don't think he went in with any malicious intent to harm himself or anybody else, but I think that he still needs to be executed to the full extent of the law. I'm not okay with this. We've come to a close. But because this obviously is a shorter show, just in case you're tuning in now like, wait a minute, and it's over, you can always catch our podcast, which air every Wednesday, 8 p.m., Blog Talk Radio /
something like a podcast.
Yeah, Stats A&D Stilettos. Of course, you can always find us in the iTunes store. Go to the podcast section, search Stats A&D Stilettos, and boom, you can listen to any show that you've missed.
No doubt. Any NBA thoughts? We got to hit it all right now. We still have a little
Here's a question I'll put on the table, and people can tweet answers to this at Stats Stilettos. Are the Knicks as real as they seem to be? Is Mike Woodson able to put this team together and make them competitive in the stretch? They look great right now in the beginning, but in the stretch, are the Knicks going to be the team that they look like right now? And 2, are the Lakers ever going to pull it together? Because your boy is failing right now, Farouk.
Well, it's early, and they have to get that offense implemented. The Knicks looked real great last night, losing to the boring Bulls.
I'm just saying, though. But other than that, there's hiccups.
IJS, you know what I mean?
Don't knock the Bulls. And no, the Knicks will not be. The Nets will go up, and the Knicks will come down. It's going to even out. The Nets are better than what they're playing right now, and the Knicks are playing over their heads.
Yes.
Okay, and it's funny because we may not have said that right when the season started. A lot of question marks with the Nets.
And I think with the Lakers, it's just they're going through a whole nother training camp. They have a totally new style of offense that they're playing.
Is not going to pull it out. He's already decided he doesn't like Pau Gasol.
Completely,
it's not going to work out.
Real quick, Pau Gasol for Boozer and something else because Gasol is not fitting nowhere near it, but Boozer can.
I'll take anybody for Boozer. Yeah, I'll take him for Boozer. Yeah.
John, Garforth and Paxton get on that. That could possibly happen.
I'll take Gasol.
Hold on, who are you asking to do that? The guys who sit with
their
thumbs
I hope they're
stuck
listening
in
right
there?
now, but I hope they get that done.
I will take Pau Gasol. I think we can work with him. I think it, and if
it will be great. But think of who you're thinking of who you're asking to make these moves.
That means we're out of here. We got to thank Bruce Levine,
Miles from the Daily Herald,
who talked Cubs with us. That was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you to everybody for listening. Thank you to our callers tonight. Thank you to our staff. And man, we talked real fast, but we are out of here. See you guys next week. Peace.